Is your presentation left?
It's there, Akshita. I'll do, don't worry. Just a minute. It's there. It's there. Since there were a lot of things which I shared, I had to dig. Yeah, am I visible now? Is the screen visible?
Okay.
Yes. So next we move on to a slightly lighter subject. We are going to discuss a few instruments which are used in our daily pediatric practice. Of course, this topic has been divided between me and Dr. Vishwanathan, who is going to present a few instruments on the 17th of this month on Saturday. First of all, regarding the artificial manual breathing unit, the AMBU bag, as we all know, this is the one which can be kept on the day of your Viva here on the instrument side. As we all know, the bag size varies from adult to children. The adult bag size is around 1,600 ml. Infant and children, it varies between 500 to 750 ml. For neonates, it is around 250 ml. And the mask, it is two types. It is the rounded and the rounded or anatomically shaped. The larger one is the 5 inches one. The medium one is the 4.5 inch, and the smaller one is the 4 inches one. So as we all know, what are the reasons why we use the AMBU bag? First of all, resuscitation of a newborn baby. Whenever we anticipate a baby with apnea, any child who is in need of a respiratory support, any child who has a respiratory depression or has a respiratory arrest, has an emergency setting, and for ventilation of anesthetized children. So as we all know, we should be very careful while exerting pressure using the AMBU bag. So there are a few indications where you should not use an AMBU bag for positive pressure ventilation. Those are, one is meconium aspiration syndrome, where we can push the meconium into the airway tree. Then in diaphragmatic hernia and eventuation diaphragm, where we may inflate we may increase that intra-abdominal pressure, and it can cause respiratory compromise, and also children who have complete airway obstruction. So what are the complications which we face because of positive pressure ventilation given through an AMBU bag if we are going to do in an inadvertent manner? One, it may cause aspiration, barotrauma. It can cause even pneumothorax and then collapse of the lung. It can cause even air embolism, gastric insufflation and rupture, hypoventilation when you're going to do in a very inadvertent manner. And rarely we can even face a situation of Mendelssohn syndrome, where you can get a chemical pneumonia which is caused by aspiration of stomach contents. Next comes to your laryngoscope, which is commonly used by our pediatricians in the hospital emergency and in the delivery room settings. We have two types of laryngoscopes. One is the straight and the curved blade. As we all know, the sizes are, we have three different sizes when we use in the pediatric setup. One is a 0, which is used in preterm, 1 in term, and 0, 0 in extremely preterm children. There are two types actually. One is a curved and straight one. In children who are less than 1 year, we are going to use only the straight type of laryngoscope, the straight blade. Whereas in children who are older children, maybe around 7 or 8 years later, we are going to use a curved blade because we want to push the epiglottis to one side so that we could visualize the airway entry more carefully. So what are the indications where we use a laryngoscope? One is when we want to insert a bronchoscope, whenever we want to visualize a cord palsy, a direct laryngoscope examination, when we want to introduce the esophagoscope, want to visualize the epiglottis properly, for proper ET tube intubation, and also for foreign body removal. So what are the complications which we face? One is we can have an oral trauma, aspiration of teeth when we have a fracture or when we pull any tooth, and also dislocation of tooth can occur. So what is the common way by which we do is we measure the length actually. The length of the blade to be used can be assessed by measuring the length from the angle of the mouth to the ear lobule. This is one of the very easy ways. Next, we have the endotracheal tube. As we all know, that we have two types of endotracheal tube. One is the cuffed one, and another one is the non-cuffed one. Usually in smaller children, we tend to use, that is in infancy, we use the non-cuffed one itself. Whereas when in older children, we can use the cuffed one. So what is the formula which we use to choose the size of the ET tube? The formula which we use is for children who are, for an uncuffed, it is age in years by 4 plus 4. And for cuffed, it is age in years by 3 plus 4. And the depth of insertion should be age in years by 2 plus 12. So this is the formula which we should keep it in the back of our mind. And the common size which we use for in the pediatric age group for children who are less than 3 kg is 2.5 millimeters diameter size. And we calculate the distance from the Lip, it's around 7 centimeters when the child is going to be less than 1 kg. It's going to be 8 centimeters from 1 to 2 kg. It's going to be 9 centimeters when it's going to be between 2 and 3 kg. And it's going to be 10 centimeters if the child is going to be more than 3 kg. So what are the indications where we are going to use an ET tube? One is when we want to aspirate a thick meconium, a child with respiratory depression, secondary birth asphyxia, when we have a diaphragmatic hernia where we want to give adequate positive pressure ventilation through and also in extreme prematurity, a child with respiratory failure, children with shock, mechanical ventilation, and we want to introduce drugs like surfactant. So what are the contraindications whenever we find any or suspect any airway obstruction? When there's severe trauma to the airway, and whenever we suspect even as any cervical spine injury. So what are the complications which we face while inserting an ET tube? Child can have apnea, bradycardia, cardiac arrest, hypoxia, edema of the airways subsequently, and subglottic stenosis if you're going to keep the ET tube for quite a longer duration, and also injury to the mouth and oropharynx. So these are the things which we actually keep. Whenever we introduce an ET tube, it's always better if we monitor the saturation and heart rate of the child. Next is your bone marrow aspiration needle. This is one of the common things which we tend to use in our day-to-day, in our routine, in the hospital pediatric practice. As we all know, the parts of the SALA bone marrow aspiration needle is your needle, trocar. It has a cannula, it has a guard to prevent penetration indigenous to the viscous, and the size varies from 14 gauge, 15 gauge, and 18 gauge. So as we all know, the bone marrow aspiration needle is used to aspirate the liquid content from the bone marrow, and the Jamshed's bone marrow biopsy needle is to remove the solid tissue from the bone marrow. So this is the one which we have to differentiate. So the SALA's bone marrow aspiration needle, as we all know, the children who are less than 2 years, we tend to use in the posterior suprailiac spine, and for children who are more than 2 years, we introduce the anterior suprailiac spine. Usually in adults, they tend to use in the sternum and lumbar spinal processes, which we tend not to use in children. So what are the indications? As we all know, there are a humpty number of causes, but we are going to enumerate only a few, like your aplastic anemia, myelodysplastic syndromes, your storage disorders and infiltrable disorders like leukemia. Whenever we suspect any malignancy, ITP, and infections like your malaria, chronic infections like a Kala-Azar, and also in enteric fever when we are in doubt, where we get a negative report in your blood culture. Therapeutically, we can use it for intraosseous infusion of fluids whenever we have a child with a severe dehydration where we are not able to find any peripheral vein. For blood transfusion, it can be used, and also for bone marrow transplantation. So what are the contraindications? First of all, we don't use it whenever we suspect a child with bleeding disorder. Any infection at the biopsy site, we have to defer it. Osteomyelitis of the involved bone, and also any child with any thrombocytopenia. What are the complications which we face? One is blockage of needle can occur, so we should be very careful. Damage to the growth plate can occur when we do it inadvertently. Hematoma of the site after the episode, and also infection, local pain and swelling, and necrosis of skin. Next, we have the lumbar puncture needle, which will be discussed by Dr. Vishwanathan on Saturday. Next, we have the Foley's self-retaining catheter. As we all know, it's right from our houses and days, we have been using it. We have actually the two inlet parts. One is the one for the urine drainage port, other is the balloon port. And when we have the balloon bladder opening site, and for other is your balloon inflating one. So this is the urine drainage port, as we can all see the balloon port, the bladder opening, and the port. So what are the indications? One is to collect urine and to monitor adequate urine output. So where it is used, it is used commonly in children who are anesthetized and who are in comatose state, children with urinary incontinence, urinary obstruction, a child with neurogenic bladder, and also wherever we find any contraindications, and also in children with we have a pelvic fracture. So what are the complications we face is hematuria. We can even have an hospital-acquired nosocomial UTI. Injury can occur if we do it very carelessly. Urethral stricture can occur rarely, and damage or rupture. So we should be very careful. And also we should not retain the Foley's catheter for more than 4 days. That's very, very important. Then comes your Melicott's catheter, the trocar and cannula which you use for your intercostal drainage. As we all know, during our PG days, we have used a lot, but also we should be very familiar with the sizes which we use for the newborns, around 8 to 12 Fg. For infant, it is 12 to 16 Fg, and for children, it is 16 to 24 Fg, and adolescent, it is around 12, 22 to 32 Fg size. So as we all know, the chest tube placement is usually done in the posterior for older children. When we anyway suspect a child with any effusion or any hemothorax, we tend to use it in the posterior axillary line. We tend to use it in between the 4th to 8th intercostal space. And our children, and for whenever we suspect a pneumothorax, we tend to introduce in the second intercostal space in the mid-clavicular line. So what are indications as we already enumerated? It is used in pneumothorax, pleural effusion, chyle, hemo, and thorax, and also in a child with empyema. So what are the contraindications? Whenever you suspect air leak, subcutaneous emphysema, infection, hemorrhage, and whenever we suspect any injury to the underlying organs. NG tube and Riles tube will be discussed by Dr. Vishwanathan on Saturday. Next, we have a mucus sucker, Delius mucus trap, and suction bulb. We'll discuss about Delius mucus trap. It is used to clear secretions from the mouth and nose. Suction done in supine position with head turned to one side, and negative pressure of 100 millimeters of mercury should be applied. The tube with hole should be inserted to the mouth in the baby. Tube with mouthpiece should be connected with the suction apparatus. Next, a very common thing which we use in our day-to-day practice is your peak flow meter. The right peak flow meter is your is used to monitor lung function, your airway, the potency of the airway to dilate post your inhalation of a beta agonist, and to monitor the effectiveness of treatment of asthma. Actually speaking, the best way to pick or the investigation to be done in any child when you suspect an hyperairway disease is your spirometry, because that is going to analyze the size of the smaller airways. Because the peak flow meter is just going to pick your responsiveness in your larger airways. However, for day-to-day for the ease of usage, the right peak flow meter will be very used in our day-to-day practice. But ideally, it's the spirometry which is going to assess the size of your smaller size airway. As we all know the types, it's used for low range for children. It's a standard range. You should actually, the parents have to calculate the normal values when the child is in the normal physical state. Then only we can calculate, we can compare it with the abnormal value. So there are three colors actually. Whenever the color is green, it is around 80 to 100% in the normal level. It's yellow, it is between 50 to 80%, and it's red, it is in the danger zone. So advantages, it's very easy to use and very cost effective. Can be used only by children who are above 5 years of age, because you have to give a good thrust. Spacer will be dealt with Dr. Vishwanathan on Saturday. But however, as we all know, for practical purposes, since I have touched upon your upon peak flow meter, I would like to discuss something about the spacer, because this is one thing which should be used whenever in our day-to-day practice also. When we use the meter dose inhaler separately, the actuation and the inhalation may not correlate, and it will not coincide. So to make it more, to make the actuation and inhalation, when you can't combine it and you can't phase it together in a proper way, you need to have a spacer whenever you use a meter dose inhaler for a child. Venflons will be dealt with by Dr. Vishwanathan on Saturday. So thank you, one and all. Thanks, Dr. Nagaraju sir, for giving me this wonderful opportunity, myself and Dr. Benjamin, to be the coordinators for the day. It has been a wonderful day. Actually, we learned a lot, both of us. It's been a wonderful presentation from two young superstars, Dr. Kaushika and Dr. Divya. They did an excellent presentation. And we were it was a wonderful moderation by Dr. Srinivasan sir, Dr. Velusamy, Dr. Riaz, Dr. Srikaran. We learned a lot. It was a very memorable day. And thank Dr. Nagaraju sir and Dr. Venkateshan for giving us this opportunity. Thank you, one and all.
I would like to thank Dr. Amalraj for saving my this thing, because I got held up in a wedding. So I asked Dr. Amal to help me out, and he immediately came and helped for me. Thanks, Dr. Amal.
Okay, Benjamin, very nice. Both of you did very well. And today's moderation went on very well. Excellent for all of us. And we learned also something. And it is very useful for the practitioners. I think with this, I will ask Dr. Venkatesh sir to closing remarks. And we'll close it, because already we are 7:30 almost.
It's an excellent discussion today. I think we must thank all the moderators for their excellent job they have done. And congratulate the students. And we learned a lot today. I think hope we'll have a better session tomorrow also. Thank you.
I think with this, because IAP is requesting,